Welcome to Making It Last, where we share ideas to help families tackle major issues. I'm your host, Regina DeMeo, and with me today is Phiilp of Burning Tree Builders. And today we're talking about renovations, additions, and new homes. Thanks so much for being here, Phiilp.
Thank you for having me.
So, how long have you been in business here?
I've been doing contracting a total of about 10 years, and my own company around 6. Yeah.
So, how do most people find a contractor?
A lot of times it's word of mouth, making relationships with other people through real estate agents and trusted sources, and also recommendations from architects.
I had an experience, I remember, when we did our home, where, our architect gave us a couple of names, but the prices that we got back really varied. So what would people look for other than just the price? Because I think there's more than just the price that you're looking at, right?
Well, I think it's very important when you choose an architect that he or she listens. A lot of times when architects envision through the client of their plans, they make them somewhat grandiose plans. And that definitely can drive the cost from, say, hypothetically, a $250,000 budget for a renovation addition to maybe $400,000, and then you wondering what did not, how can I say, communicate with the architect of what your budget was.
Yeah, well, that actually happened to us. I mean, we had these great, beautiful plans, and then when we started getting the bids, all of a sudden we're like, yeah, this is way beyond our budget. So we had to strip it down. And it was not a pleasant experience to go through. It's like you thought you were going to get the Lamborghini, and now you're winding up with a Chevy.
Right. Again, it really, you have to choose your architect wisely. There's an architectural firm that I work with, Mark Kramer Architects, and he's been in business for 30 plus years. And he really listens to the client and what their budget is and what can be done within that budget stream. So, again, choose wisely and make sure that when you do the interview with the architect that you're communicating clearly with this architect of what your plans are, what your budget is, and not what his or her plans are and what they believe their budget's going to be.
Right. So, I mean, is there a range of options that people, like, you could go with a pretty standard kitchen and that's not going to be as expensive, or you can have, like, what's the range for a kitchen?
Well, that's somewhat of a loaded question because the range of kitchens, I mean, you can go to Home Magazine, whatever, and look at a beautiful kitchen. It could be $100,000, or you can have probably something, the aesthetic look, for $25,000.
Wow.
So I think what, as an individual or the family, has to set a realistic budget for that kitchen. So my rule of thumb when I'm speaking to a client, if they're telling me that they want a $40,000 kitchen, I tell them to dial it down to half, because then they realize what they really need, and as they add on to that kitchen, they'll hit their budget, as opposed to saying, I want 40, and then it might go up to 70.
Is it mostly the material that's expensive or the labor?
Well, given the material costs have risen exponentially, yes. Labor is pretty standard, and given some current situations, I think after the attrition of the building business, there's only a certain amount of companies that are doing kitchens and so forth, and I think they were able to increase their labor costs with the people, but it really comes down to material.
So, I remember when we did our contract, I think we put a third down in the beginning and then a third as the project was, making progress. Is that the norm?
That is absolutely the norm, unless something else is being negotiated, but that's pretty much the norm, yes.
Okay. And what's a realistic time frame? Because, I mean, if it was up to me, obviously I don't want to be out without a working kitchen for more than a couple of weeks, but maybe that's not realistic. So how do you determine a realistic time frame for people?
Well, if we're just talking about a kitchen, it's really defined by the scope of work and what goes on. So if we're moving the kitchen or redoing the plumbing and a lot of other interior stuff because you want to redo the lighting, realistically it could be, depending on if the kitchen is out, say, 4 to 6 weeks, meaning that to get the kitchen inside the person's house, pardon me, you would like to start doing demolition probably about a week prior to, and depending on, again, the scope of work. We usually like to turn around a kitchen probably within 2 or 3 weeks. Now, a family would say, wow, I'm out of a kitchen, so you try to make a makeshift kitchen for them somewhere, so the microwave or whatever it is, or hopefully you have a really good next door neighbor.
Yeah, we grilled a lot and definitely microwaved. Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing that I thought I wasn't really prepared for was, things came up. Just, like we were doing a bathroom, and it turns out there was rot underneath the tub or something like that. So what happens when you have those kinds of situations?
Well, 2 things. Obviously, you address it with the client, saying we're going to have to do a little bit more work than anticipated, so-called change orders.
Okay.
And depending on how old the house is and everything else and what we have to change out, I mean, there's a lot of cast iron in these old places and stuff. And that's not uncommon around in this area, not at all. It's just built up in the age of the house.
Have you had mold issues come up?
There have been mold issues.
Yeah.
And not major or anything like that. Standard for, again, the house could be 30, 40, 50, 80 years old. It's standard stuff that happens. So you just deal with it when it comes up.
So you do change the contract to.
Oh yeah.
Take it into account.
Right, to take it into account and reflect the scope of work you're going to be doing.
Got it. And another thing I remember, which is very interesting, is that I was actually the least picky of the 2. So, but that's not always true. I mean, sometimes you have 2 people very opinionated with very different views of how, they want the home improvement project to go. So, as the contractor, how do you deal with that?
Well, for me, it's very simple. Somebody's got to be the boss. I can't be beholden to 2 people. So make up their mind whether it's going to be the wife or the husband or whomever it may be, but I only can go to one person. I mean, they can chime in, but they can't say, okay, I'm leaving to work, I want this done, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes in. No, I don't want that. There has to be clarity in this whole thing.
Right.
Otherwise, the costs start just becoming so ramped up that then they come and see you.
Right. Well, I don't do that kind of litigation. But, you mean like in the divorce situation?
Exactly.
Yes. Well, I do think that a lot of people, after they go through a home improvement project, wind up really getting on each other's nerves.
I've seen a couple that actually filed for divorce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting, very intense process to go through, and if you're not, fully on board and together, you really start to see the chink in your relationship foundation. Right,
and I think, based on that, hopefully you have a sound infrastructure with your relationship, and there's nothing easy. I mean, I'm married to these people for 6 months, and I see some of the consternation that goes on with it. And what my job is, it's a master chess game. So if I see things that are coming down the road with that train or deer in the headlight syndrome, I just try to say, look, we got to do this, this, and this to right the ship. And I keep on reassuring them that they're going to come into the house in a timely manner, and it's going to be beautiful. Please communicate with your better half. This is what's happening. And I think that the more you communicate and with sound agreements, you'll be able to go ahead and live through this process. But then again, sometimes they can't give up control. It's like, I want it this way, I want it that way. My recollection, if I can go this way, my recollection was one time I was redoing a house. I was adding on like a couple thousand square feet, and then they decided to redo the whole house. And all the husband wanted was the pool room. And she was like, no, I'm going to control that too. So I just kind of...
She couldn't just give him his own room?
No.
Yeah.
So, the thing is that, again, pick and choose your battles out there.
Yeah.
You're going to have a beautiful product when we're finished with it. And if somebody wants a small little room, 500 square feet out of 4,000 square feet, does it really matter?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I remember, my ex-husband he loves cooking, and the kitchen was really his thing. It's not my thing. I'm happy to call takeout. We're good to go, right? So he took a lot of time, even with the knobs and making sure that the cabinets were just perfect and the lighting, every single aspect of this. And for some reason, there's only one thing I cared about, and it was this one bathroom. Right? And we went, and I hate it. Every weekend it was a project. Every weekend you guys will say, go pick out the knobs for this, go pick out, right? So it was an ongoing process. And I fell in love with this one sink. And the sink, I remember, it was beautiful. It was black, and it was hand-painted with gold, and it had these snakes in it. It was the most beautiful thing. It was like over $1,000, right? Well beyond what we had budgeted. But I was like, I really want the sink. I just want the sink, and everything else is going to be fine. So I wound up getting the sink, obviously. Right. And yeah, we were peaceful for many years. But yeah, I can see how the tension, if you don't have that kind of give and take in a relationship, would really come to a head when your whole house is being torn apart.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, again, when I talk to clients or when I'm doing the work, potential clients doing the work, I said embrace it. You're creating something together. Okay,
right.
And you're building upon that foundation where if you're going to have a family or you have an existing family, you're going to be there for many, many years to come. So I get excited because I can end up seeing what the final product is even before even starting it and all that. So when I say, look, everything is going to be great, you guys just trust me on this, what you have to do is come cohesively together and just say, this is us. This is what we've seen, what we're doing, and what we're going to be living in this atmosphere inside your humble abode, right?
Right.
And obviously we're going to make it to fruition. And don't let these little bumps in the road make it so as a massive obstacle course to the end project. You know what I mean?
I do understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that not everybody has that kind of an attitude in their own relationship before this process even starts. And now you're taking someone's house and tearing it apart to get to a better place. But it really can rock someone's foundation in their marriage.
Absolutely. It really comes down on how solid your relationship is together. And if it's on a rocky foundation, this can work. It can work obviously both ways. One, to leading towards divorce.
Right.
But the other side is saying, wow, we can work things together and make things happen. And look, we've worked it. Building a solid foundation. And there isn't anything different than building a solid foundation with one person as building a solid foundation for the house. It starts with an infrastructure.
Right.
And if you have a solid infrastructure and you can build upon that, you can build the Taj Mahal. It really doesn't matter because you know what the additions, you know what's going to end up happening and all this. And I look forward to it and working with the clients. But then again, it always goes back. I only have one master. So
you're gauging their personalities, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember those contractors were there every morning, probably by 6 or 7 a.m. And so I'd make them all a pot of coffee and we'd hang out. I'm in my PJs. I don't really care.
Right.
All right. And then when I was ready to go to work, I'd go to work. And when I'd come home, so they did their best to clean up. But there's going to be dust.
Correct.
There might be leftover nails. And I had to be careful with my dog to make sure that, the dog didn't chew the nails or anything like that. Right. But I didn't flip out on you guys. You're doing the best you can, but it's not going to be like squeaky clean when you leave. But some people would flip out if they, had people in their house in the morning before they're ready, and the house was a mess when they came home. So you're looking for that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment because you're adding on to this house. And the way our process works is that we try to build a house to completion for the add-on before we break through the house, because the dust, to mitigate the dust, the nails and everything else. Sometimes I've seen it work the other way where they just break through and then people are walking in the house. That doesn't serve obviously the client, especially the wife, because and if they also have children, because you have all these dust particles flying around and you have to be extremely careful, and then there's obviously the kitchen is being dusty and whatever else. So we try to go ahead and, after our inspections and everything else, take it to the point where we have to break through. Now then the client has the option.
Right.
move out for X amount of weeks, move in with their in-laws, assuming that they have some in-laws in here, or rent a house for 2 months. Yes, it's an additional expense. Yes, I talk about it prior to and of signing the contract, saying, look, I really need to know this. And if you have infants, I am absolutely adamant to leave the house, because first of all, obviously you're out of a kitchen or something of that nature.
Right.
You have dust flying, and you want to go ahead and get this done in an expeditious manner.
Makes sense.
So, any parent would probably take my advice on that.
Yeah.
So.
We're going to take a short break.
Sure.
And then we will be right back.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Making It Last, where we share ideas to help families tackle major issues. I'm your host, Regina DeMeo, and with me today is Phiilp from Burning Tree Builders. And we've been talking about home renovations and additions and how we can actually really test your relationship in the process.
Absolutely.
So, I know that when I inherit a case, so somebody else has, screwed up something and the client's not happy and they come to me for second opinion, they want me to take over, I'm very reluctant to take over somebody else's mess, because then I have to clean up somebody else's mess, and some things just can't be undone. Do you have the same issue in your line of work?
Absolutely, because I don't know previously how many contractors they went through, and I just see there's some issues that are going on, and then all of a sudden you're trying to undo whatever's going on with their particular project and all that. And then all of a sudden they get angry with us, or the possibility, because they're frustrated the previous contractor. Now it's a spillover, and I was like, hey, we're just trying to help you here and stuff like this. But all of a sudden the cost becomes a lot greater to what they had end up budgeting. Case in point, this was X amount of years ago. I bid on a contract, and I think it was like $17,000 higher or something like that. They went with a lower contractor, and it cost, what I found out later, it cost the guy close to $150,000 for major mess ups.
Wow.
So again, out there when I'm speaking with them, you have plenty of choices.
Right.
Do your due diligence and speak with whomever, who could be the architect or other people that this builder is recommending to speak with, and find out what's going on. If you have to have many interviews, I wouldn't say many, but if you see each other 2 or 3 times or something like this, then do it, and you gauge your relationship with that particular builder. I think there's. I think as a builder, you should be very wary of taking on the other business, because you just really could set yourself up with a bunch of problems.
And there's a lot of litigation in your field, right?
There's a lot of litigation. That's why we pay the insurance amounts that we have to have, and unfortunately, there's good and bad contractors.
Right.
I think it's very important that when picking the contractor, he or she should definitely be licensed, and paperwork should reflect that.
Can you look up the history and see if somebody has sued this contractor multiple times?
Sure. Well, I mean, with today's technology, you can go ahead and see what's going on. Yeah. I think there's, you do, just like in your case of work, you do your due diligence,
Right.
and then you do your best. But then, again, hopefully the client has a sound mind where he or she understands the process. And it's very important to understand this process. It's not like going to the grocery store, shopping for 20 minutes, and you get the end product. I mean, you're there for usually about a half a year.
Yeah, ours was definitely, we did I think 3 bathrooms, the kitchen, and something else in the process. Yeah, it was a long 6 months.
Right.
But actually, they ended on time, and the punch list was very minimal. there's always a punch list, right?
Absolutely. There's always a punch list. I mean, you're making mental notes on what needs to be done, and you're consistently speaking with the client. How's everything going? What do we need? Do you see anything different? And well, he or she will also bring up a punch list to you weeks prior to what's to your end date.
Right.
But as a conscientious contractor, you should minimize your punch list. As
Yeah,
best
ours was
available.
really minimal.
Right.
I mean, there's a few things, they took care of it all. And I have to say, like, I really they were not the cheapest bid, but I kind of went with my gut, and we just felt very comfortable with the builder.
Right.
And there's a lot, I think, to be said for that. And the head carpenter was just also a very decent human being.
Right.
So I think that speaks a lot. And we called like 3 of their former clients to make sure that the references checked out.
Sure. Absolutely. And
So you would do that. You would give out.
Absolutely. Plenty of references, and just going through all this. The thing is, most importantly, is as a client, who are you dedicating to be on who is the go-to person on that project? You should be a face all the time there, or at least making your rounds through there and just saying if there are any issues, something that it's not just we're there for 20 minutes and we don't show up another week or something like that. So it's very important also as the client to understand what is the process on what's going to be done, from the laying of the concrete to doing the framing to when you're going to renovate the kitchen or the bathroom or stuff like that. So, and in saying that, I think it's also very important, and I'm really adamant about, is the client has a responsibility. They need to pick out their paint colors. They need to pick out their tile. They have their own homework. And I've had clients
I know
where
that gave me a lot of homework.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, you're right. Even down to the minor detail of like the French doors. I knew I wanted French door handles, but I didn't specify gold or silver.
Right.
And so they
Bronze.
right. So they picked the wrong color. That was my fault. And
Right.
they were really good about switching it out, but it's the level of detail
Right.
that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Well, we sent out an email to the client and says, okay, here's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And here are your allowances. And we give them a list of places that they can go to.
Right.
And if they say, do you have a preferred list, we give them that too,
Right.
because we know that the job just gets done over there and stuff like that. And my suggestion all the time, and it's very important, if you're single, it's not a problem, because you just go there and you pick out whatever your liking is. If you're in a relationship, whether you might have a fiance or a married couple, it's very important to take out that time on the weekend or whatever time that they have and start looking at all the different bathroom patterns and everything else. Or there's another suggestion. If 2 bathrooms are being done, pick and choose. This
Right.
is my bathroom, this is your bathroom, but if it's a master, obviously it's collectively together.
Right.
Don't hesitate to ask these people where you're showing up, to ask all the questions possible. And look through magazines.
What happens if there's a delay? Like what if somebody wanted this one product and now it's on back order for 6 months, which isn't your fault? But what do you
That extends. So let's say if it's a product that has to be for the master bathroom. And if it's on back order for 4 months or something, your project is an additional to an addendum. So
Okay.
for that bathroom, it's going to be an additional 4 months. So I try to tell them, find another alternative, because all that will lead to, I'm trying to head off that iceberg so the ship doesn't hit it. So, you know what, again, it goes down to the relationship with your other half, saying, it's not there, do you want to wait 4 months, or let's go ahead and go for option B or C, whatever it is.
Right.
And there's plenty out there. There's absolutely no reason, unless you're building, again, the Taj Mahal or something like that, that there's plenty out there that you can choose from.
Yeah, I mean, that happened to us all the time. We picked out one thing and it was no longer
Available.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, pick your battles. We're moving on.
Right.
Right. Do you have any funny stories that you can share?
I don't think there's enough time.
Oh, not enough time. Come on. Just pick like one.
Yeah, there was one client where I was pretty adamant about them moving out, and they just kept on pushing it to the very end, and I really think they just didn't want to go to their in-laws because, I mean, in-laws were great.
Right.
I mean, I liked them and all that, and I was trying to understand this, but there was a little bit of a disconnect. The day that finally I think she realized that they had to move out, when the dogs were covered in spackle.
Ooh.
The
Yeah.
dogs, they were wagging their tail. They had enough joint compound mud all over them, and I'm just looking at them, and I'm like, your choice, because I said, I'll be more than happy to walk your dogs and everything. I am not bathing your dogs.
Right.
I was like, I'm done. There's
Dog
so much.
grooming is not
Right,
part of the contract.
exactly.
Yeah.
Called mobile groomer or whatever it is. So, and after that, I think within 72 hours, they packed up and left.
Yeah, no, people, I think, don't think enough about the dogs. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people are thinking about the infants, right?
Sure.
And children, especially with all of the materials out there. But not enough people think about the pets. And do you require them to lock them up while you're working?
Some of them, depending on how hostile they can be. But if they're really that bad, I ask them just to remove the pet from the house.
Uh-huh.
But the other side of it is that, again, I've been known to walk dogs and try to help them out as best as possible and all that. But they usually have these people that come in and assist the dogs and stuff like that.
What's the priciest home improvement that you did? Or new build, whatever.
You could say probably around $500,000.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. And then there obviously a new house can increase from there.
You don't do the actual demolishing. Like if somebody has bought one of those, the old homes that just need to be demolished, you don't do the...
No, we can do it. We actually it's preferable for us to do the demo because we realize because we can start taking that down and then make whatever the size of the new home will be, we can already start cutting it out or filling it and stuff like that. So again, it all goes back to the infrastructure.
Yeah.
If I can take it from that house that you want to go ahead and demolish, and then in 9 months or a year, you'll have a brand new home.
What's your favorite part about your job?
And product. The smile that it can bring with the clients or the kids, mostly like the kids where they get their new rooms or a new bathroom or something like that, and they're not on top of one another's, and they just feel, lack of a better term, whole. Like my brothers and sisters are not all over me. I got my personal space. It's all about personal space.
Don't you have that line like change your home, change your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change your pad, change your life.
That's it.
Yeah,
I love
will.
that.
Yeah, I will. I'll change your pad. It will change your life, no doubt.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I remember. I'll share you another story. There was a client downtown, and she was divorce procedures or it was finished, and she's like, I need my condo complete makeover, and she was procrastinating, and I don't know what she was holding on to, but it definitely needed a complete makeover. It needed it badly. So she's like, well, I said, are you by any chance taking any trips? Well, I have to go to a conference to Florida for a week. I said, that'll be the time that I'll be there, because I didn't want any interference and all this. So she was a little bit hesitant. I said, just trust me on this. And when she came back, it was definitely, I changed the pad, it changed her life. She
Nice.
moved on with her life, and that's it.
If someone wanted to contact you for more information, how would they do that?
You can go to my website, burningtreebuilders.com. There's an 800 number there, or contact me direct at 202-345-2770.
Great. This has been awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Making It Last.